All right, guys, so I get asked a lot of questions about carving at a given art show, right? And I've been at 2 art shows this past couple of weeks, and one of the most commonly asked questions is, how often do I sharpen my tools? So I thought today I would take you on a little journey on showing you the tools that I use on the daily basis, the ones that I use, because I've done videos before on the tools that you can use. You can look those up if you don't have a bunch of fancy tools like the ones I have. But this is what I do to maintain my tools. But and then at the end I'll answer that question: how often do I sharpen my tools? And that's it's not an easy answer, but we'll get to it. All right, so let me take you guys on a little journey here, off the tripod and over to the carving section. This is about as chaotic as you'll ever see my workbench, because things got really hectic during the art show season here, and I wasn't spending much time cleaning it. As you can see, still messy, but so you'll forgive me, right? Looks like a massacre happened here with all this red paint. Anyway, no one was harmed in the making of these wood carvings. So 2 tools that I use most often, and I've shown them in some other videos before, but just kind of briefly going over them. The first is the Work Sharp. Now, I like the Work Sharp for a couple of reasons. One, I like that it's mounted, the sandpaper for shaping and the leather for stropping. This is the leather disc, is mounted to a glass disc. Now, I'm no expert on sharpening, but it seems to me that this glass disc absorbs some of the heat and doesn't heat up the tool quite as much as some of the other options out there, like the grinder stones, and it spins at a slow rate, as not to ruin the temper or burn out the tool. So I'll use this when I'm just polishing a tool. You know, say for instance I'm feeling it's a little bit harder to push through the material than it usually is. I'll bring this tool out and sharpen. So I use polishing compound for both of these tools, and the polishing compound that I use is Zam. Zam is good. I've got a bunch of it in here. You can see my stash is under here. So if you're ever in my shop, you know where my stash is now. Zam is a really good, like, mid kind of grit, if you will, or I don't know what you want to call it, but it doesn't remove as quickly as some of the others, but it's not as fine as some of the ones that take forever to get that mirror polish on. So it cuts quickly. It's a nice middle balance of grit. The other tool that I use probably just as often, or actually even more often, and is probably less than half the price, is this wet dry grinder. Now this, really, you don't need a wet dry grinder. All you need is a bench grinder and a cotton wheel. This one's seen some use. This one actually used to be a full 6-inch wheel. Now it's probably at best 4, but you can see it gets a lot of use. Look at the buildup of all this compound. Anyway, I use this most often to touch up my tools. Now, thing about this, this is into some nerd talk here for just a second, but people have always kind of pushed me away from using the polishing wheels growing up, or they did, at least some of them, because they would say that it would roll the bevel over. In other words, this flat edge would kind of get bent over, and they'd say it's not as sharp, so on and so forth. Well, my experience with this is a little bit of a rolled bevel, not totally rolled over, but a little bit of a bellied bevel actually makes the tool a little bit more durable. I can't explain this. I'm not a physicist. I'm not a rocket scientist, but I can explain to you that that's just my experience. So when I'm carving and I notice my tool's dull, what I'll do is I'll use this to buff the outer bevel and then the inner bevel. And notice the angle. I'm not pushing it into the blade. I'm just meeting the angle. Sorry about the volume of it. I'll turn this off. But I'll use this tool to get the inside bevels. This is what I use to get the inside bevels of these little tricky gouges, these little veiners. I'll hold it up in the same way. I won't turn it on so I won't burst your eardrums. But I'll hold it against the wheel as it spins, and those fibers will get on the inside bevels. All of my curved U tools, I'll do that. And so as far as how often I do that, then, I talked about this one, but usually I'll use this for just the outside bevel. If I've just recently sharpened a tool, I'll bring it to the work sharp and strop the backside, and then take off the compound and get the inside bevel with the buffing wheel. So again, excuse the chaos in here. So with regard to, again, how often I sharpen my tools, it really depends on this type of wood that I'm carving. You know, if for instance, I'm carving bark, I know that there's going to be a lot of dirt and sediment deposit in this bark that's going to make my tools very dull very quickly. And in that case, I'm going to strop a little bit more often. So if I notice that my tools aren't razor sharp, if I have to put more pressure than usual on my tools, or if I notice little lines that I'm leaving behind as I'm pushing the gouge or chisel through the wood, I know that it's time to sharpen my tool to bring it to the polish. So if I'm carving a wood like, well, say for instance, something harder, like birch, you know, middle of the road hardness, not super hard. I know that I'll need all of the sharpness I can get. So there's almost never a situation in which I don't want the tools to be sharp. It just kind of depends. I can get away with, you know, maybe stropping a little bit less if the wood is cleaner. And typically the birch is going to be a little bit cleaner. Most milled, dried, kiln dried woods are going to be a little bit cleaner. And ideally, you're not going to have to polish as much. Whoa, I kicked my tripod. All right, so the point is that there's no kind of set amount of time that I wait in between stropping sessions. It's really more every once in a while, I'll maintenance all of my tools. I'll just take all the tools off my workbench that I've been using. I'll bring them to the strop and I'll do one after another if it's been a while. Otherwise, I'm going on a per needed basis. So if I've got one that's, again, leaving the lines behind, if it needs extra attention, I'm pushing a little bit harder than I might be pushing with another one of my newer or sharper tools. I know that it's time to bring that to the strop. And if I notice that I'm starting to have the wood, the fibers are breaking more, and I'm not having as much control over the cuts that I make, usually that's an indication that it's time to get to the strop. All right, so that's my little piece on how often I strop. I had to make this. I've been asked that, I've probably been asked that, I don't know, a billion times at art shows. So there you go. That's how often I sharpen my tools. Thanks for watching, guys. And if you'd like to learn more about the type of carvings that I do have an online school. I break down some sharpening there as well, but more than that, I focus on carving the realistic face. I do beginner whittles, intermediate stuff, really focusing on the intermediate and advanced carvings. But check that out in the link below. It's a resource for you to learn about that. So 100-something videos on there, tons of projects, 80-something projects, and that's that. All right, see you guys in the next one.